everyone, and welcome back to Anyone Can Learn to Code. Today we're going to learn about a special kind of variable, known as an instance variable, and why you would need it. Let's say we're building some banking software, which will allow a customer to check how much money is in his or her bank account, as well as deposit or withdraw some money. So we may start with this bank account class right here. Now let's create a method that lets us set how much money is in the account. This would be useful when we first create the account. Afterwards, money can be managed by deposits and withdrawals, but it's convenient to have a method that starts an account out with a certain amount of money. Let's keep things really simple right now and make it that all new accounts start out with $0. A user can later make deposits to add money, but a new account will always start with $0. Let's create this method. Let's call it setup, which will set up the new account. In it, we will say money equals 0. So by calling the setup method, we create a money variable that starts out at 0. This money variable is the variable we'll use throughout this class to keep track of how much money is currently in the account. We can then have deposit and withdraw methods, which will increase and decrease this money variable respectively. Let's start by creating a deposit method. Now before we actually write the code for this method, let's just explain what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to make it that a user can deposit some money into his account by calling the deposit method and by providing an argument of how much money he or she wishes to deposit. That amount of money gets stored in this deposit dollars variable, and then we can add it to the money variable. Just to demonstrate how this would be used, we're trying to achieve that you can call accounts.deposit 50. So assuming that a bank account object is stored in this variable called account, we can then call this deposit method, which will deposit $50 into the account. So again, we're going to take this deposit dollars variable and add it to our money variable, which we set up over here in the setup method. So we're going to add those two numbers together and then take that sum and store it back into the money variable. So if the user started out with $0 and then called this deposit method with the argument of 50, the money variable is now updated to be holding the number 50, representing that this account currently holds $50. Our withdraw method would look very similar. Again, we're going to subtract from the amount of money that's currently in the account and update the money variable with that number. And this all looks great, but let's see what happens when we try to run it. So let's load this class into IRB. And we'll start by creating a new account. We'll store it inside a variable called account. So account equals bankaccount.new. To set things up, we're going to call account.setup, which establishes that the account currently holds $0. Now let's see what happens when we try to deposit some money. Let's try to put in $50, and we get an error, undefined method plus for nil class. So let's explain what's going on over here. We first created the money variable when we called the setup method. But guess what? When you create a variable inside a method, after the method has completed, the variable totally disappears. So by the time we call the deposit method and we try to add deposit dollars to the money variable, at this point there is no variable called money that the program is aware of. So when we try to add the deposit dollars to this money variable, we get an error saying we're trying to add a number to nil, that is something that doesn't exist. The concept of variables only existing inside the method that created them is known as the concept of scope, meaning the money variable created in the setup method only exists inside the scope of this setup method, but not elsewhere. So it seems that we've hit a brick wall. How can we get our program to work? Enter the concept of an instance variable. Even though regular variables don't exist outside the scope of the method in which they were created, instance variables can. Thus, if an instance variable is created in one method, it can still be accessed from another method. And this whole concept of instance variables was created just for this reason. This way we can have variables that store important information about our object that all the different methods can access. Now creating an instance variable is easy. We just stick at the front of the variable name the @ sign. You can consider the @ to be part of the variable name, but it indicates that this variable isn't any regular variable, but rather it's an instance variable. And we'll have to do the same everywhere else that this variable exists. Let's save this and try it out again. Let's take it from the top. So we've loaded the bank account file. We have a new bank account object stored inside the account variable. We'll set up the account with $0, and then we'll try to deposit 50. And this time it worked. So let's withdraw $10, let's say, which gives us a balance of $40. And now our bank account works. So that was easy. The moral of the story is that to have a single variable that can be accessed by multiple methods of your object, you need to remember to use instance variables instead of regular variables. In general, you'll find that you typically need instance variables when keeping track of any attribute of your custom object. The amount of money inside a bank account is a very important attribute of the bank account. We'd probably also use instance variables for other important attributes, such as which customer the account actually belongs to and whether the account is a checking or a savings account, etc. But we'll leave our example be for now. Thanks for watching. Anyone can learn to code.